Hello and welcome to this edition of EB-5 Investment Report. I'm your host, Amy Rios. Recently, we sat down with Temecula's Mayor Pro Tem, Maryann Edwards, and Buck Johns, President of Inland Investor Visa Group 8 at Temecula's City Hall, to discuss how the city supports the EB-5 program and the relationship with Inland Investor Visa Group 8, a limited partnership that links foreign investors with projects in the United States through the EB-5 program. Welcome to the show, Maryann and Buck, and thank you so much for joining us today. Now, I was wondering, can you explain the relationship that Inland Investor Visa Group 8 has with the city of Temecula?
I'll be happy to take the first stage of that, and thank you for having us today. And I'm delighted to have Maryann on the program. Our activities have been enthusiastically supported by the city of Temecula, and Maryann has played a lead in that, so we're very pleased to be a part of it. Inland Investor Group 8 is an organization of our company that's involved in the EB-5 program of being able to let foreign investors be able to make investments in this country in order to receive a green card, and that our project is located directly across the street from City Hall.
What is this project? Are we talking about the Truax building? And where are we at in construction of that?
Well, I was just over there a few minutes ago, and that the building is framed up, and that we're now working on the interior side of the building. It's a 4-story Class A office building, and that it should be completed in the next few months.
Now, Maryann, how was the city supportive of this project?
Well, we love it anytime that viable investors see the value of developing here in Old Town Temecula, and in Temecula proper, as a matter of fact. So we appreciate the fact that they have helped to promote Old Town, and of course, as the Mayor Pro Tem for the city of Temecula, it's my job to promote economic development and things that raise the bar on the types of projects that we have here in Old Town and throughout the city.
Can you tell me about some other EB-5 projects that the city is supportive of?
Maybe not EB-5 projects in general, but I can tell you that anytime somebody brings a quality project and they have solid investment behind them, it's always a plus for a city for every reason that you can imagine.
Now, can you tell me how the city works with Inland Investor Group in bringing foreign investment?
The people that are making investments in this country, the foreign investors, are always a little uneasy. They're looking at projects, the foreign languages, all these kinds of things are difficult for them. One of the things that they look at is the governmental entities where their projects are located. And I have to say that Temecula's done a fabulous job of welcoming these people. City Manager Aaron Adams, all of the people in City Hall that have been receptive in bringing them in, and particularly Maryann and the other council members, Chuck Washington and some of the rest of them, that have warmly received them, told them stories about the community, how welcoming they are, and it gives them a high comfort level because we're competing with other projects around not only California, but the rest of the United States. So that's one of the key ways that they help us be able to attract investors.
Now, does the city host delegations? Is that a way that the city supports and kind of brings together the Inland Investor Group with investors?
Well, we have not hosted delegations as such, but I think we have welcomed them once Buck and his group have cultivated them, gotten to know them, and are helping along with the city to promote investment, solid investment in Old Town. It's our job to promote economic development, and so Buck makes it very easy when they bring exceptional people who want to invest because they see the investment that the city has in Old Town. So we welcome with open arms people who are ready to come in and invest and do quality projects within Old Town and within the city of Temecula.
Add another point to that, which reminded me when Maryann said that, is that when we had our groundbreaking and these kind of events, Maryann was kind enough to show up, and we had the congressman and we had the assemblyman and the senator and all of those things and a number of potential investors. So all of those people then elected to come on in and join our program.
What type of foreign investors do you mostly get that are interested in investing in the city of Temecula? Are they from China?
Well, again, I think that's probably a question from Buck. The city has not actively reached out per se because we have a reliable and a very professional group that has obviously done that for us and brought those people to the city of Temecula for investment purposes. So Buck has acted, you know, they've done a lot of the legwork for us in screening and entertaining and, you know, promoting Old Town. I think it kind of works both ways. They have found a receptive audience in Temecula. Buck's been very smart and strategic in finding locations where development is welcomed, and we've set the bar really high. So I think that makes it Temecula also a very desirable place for high-quality investors to start their search. And so that's how his group has done. What they have done, they've facilitated those relationships for us. And so everybody plays a role in this. And it's our job to welcome them as quality investors and show them all the advantages that they will realize by investing in Temecula.
Now, how did the two of you meet? How did the city of Temecula get linked with your business, Buck?
We were informed of the Truax project, and we had an opportunity to come and meet Bernie Truax. And let me say that he has done an admirable job of working closely with us. He's a well-respected, longtime member of the community, and he's done quality projects. He had a project where he had already made significant investment in the project, which is being able to acquire the land where the project is located, get the entitlements, do the environmental work. We looked at that project to see if it would fit. And you can believe that there are a lot of projects come to us looking for capital. We selected that project because of the association with Bernie and his relationship with people like Maryann and the rest of the city. And let's face it, Temecula is one of the jewels of Southern California. And you bring an investor here, you go to the South Coast Winery for lunch. I mean, it shows well. They've done a fabulous job. The City Hall here sends a signal to any potential investor, you're dealing with people of substance, and that's part of what we're doing.
Now, going back to the Truax project, which you mentioned, and job creation, because this is what the EB-5 program is about, do you know how many jobs the Truax project will create?
Well, as part of the, number one, the jobs go on. You know, as the project is under construction, it provides hundreds of jobs and local jobs as well. And, you know, Southern California has been hit particularly hard in the construction industry because regions that were growing so rapidly, you know, that came to a screeching halt for a few years. And we're starting now to see, and it has a lot to do with people who find beautiful regions who are receptive to economic development, like Bernie's group. So we have jobs while we're constructing the project, and then the project will have ongoing, long-standing jobs after it's developed. The exact number I'm not sure, but if you look at the size of the building, it's going to be considerable.
Now, Buck, your group works, I believe, with Ron Darling and ARS. Do you know about the tenant occupancy issues that USCIS, the policy that they just put out in December, and how does that affect the Truax project?
Yes, we've got a lot of respect for Ron. He formed one of the regional centers that is one of the oldest and most successful. He has projects that are companion project up in Maryann over there, and we're the group that's working in the Temecula area here. Let me comment on the question on the jobs area too. Is in order to be able to qualify to receive a green card, the USCIS requires us to have an economic analysis made of the project so that when the project is completed, we submit this economic analysis that proves that we have in fact generated the jobs. The jobs are calculated, direct jobs that occurred from the project or working in the project, indirect jobs, vendors and suppliers, and then induced jobs. So we get 3 bites at that apple under the authority that is granted by the USCIS in the job calculations because we're in an EB-5 pilot program area. Project that we're talking about, Truax, generates just over 500 jobs. We need 320 because we've got 32 investors in that project total.
Do you still have investor slots open for that?
We do. We're beginning to run out, fortunately, but yes, we do have a few slots left. We expect to fill those up within the next couple months.
Now, what is your relationship with Ron Darling and ARS? Can you describe that?
Sure. We're partners. He's got a regional center, and that we partnered with Ron to do a project under the umbrella of his regional center.
Now, Maryann, can you tell me how important it is for cities to work with companies like Inland Investor Group?
I think that cities are well advised to ramp up their economic development and to take a serious look at areas of their communities that can be improved. This is the time, because the cost of construction is still relatively low when compared with the height. This is the time because the investors are out there and they're looking to invest in your community. So I would encourage every local government to take a fresh look with new eyes and say, where can we change the course of the economic development and the course of the future of our communities? We can provide jobs, we can make aesthetically, we can improve our environment. They need to think long term and look out 20 or 30 years, think down the road. So while there are groups like Buck's group that are willing to bring solid investors to their community, now is the time to think outside the box and to take advantage. Be aggressive in your economic development and your outreach, and learn to think in new ways, and it'll benefit your community, your residents, and the businesses that you associate with.
Now, being aggressive, does that mean, is part of that maybe going to China, going to places to recruit investors?
We have not done that yet, and maybe it's because the Bucks Group has made it so easy for us. You know, they're doing the legwork and bringing quality investors to the city. So, which is not to say that we might not do that in the future, but to date we haven't done that.
We very much want Maryann to go to China with us. Now, let's clarify that, okay? We would welcome that. Chuck Washington was almost going to go with us, but that it would enhance our presentations when we're there in China. China represents approximately 80% of the EB-5 investors, so it's the mother lode. And in terms of people that have invested in our Temecula project, we had our first Russian that came in 2 weeks ago. We've had 2 people from Vietnam that have come in, and the rest are from China.
Now, how often do you yourself go to China?
I've been to China 9 times, and that I have another group that's associated with us that'll be there 1st of April. I won't be on that trip, but we'll go probably every 3rd month we'll take, and we'll probably be a little more aggressive than that now.
Buck, you know, there are Chinese investors that are very uncertain about the program. We've had examples of project failures. And how do you address this with investors to assure them that it is a good place to invest?
The statute that was passed in the United States required that investment to be largely described as an equity investment, so that the funds had to be at risk. That's a part of the statute. It has to be at-risk funds, so it's akin to an equity investment. That being the case, there are going to be failures. There are going to be investing in projects, and not every project is going to succeed. And that's the nature of business around the world. There are going to be failures. And that there have been failures, and that we've got a failure in one of the small projects that was located up in El Monte, where it was mismanaged and the thing didn't work out right. And there are other ones that have failed. There was a dairy project back in the Midwest. And so it's incumbent on the investor to take a hard look at with whom are they investing, and it's the project's failures. And so that's why when these investors come here, they want to see that the individual who's going to be receiving their investment capital, Truax Development, is an established, long-term, successful developer. And the way they get to find out investing in them is to see their projects, see information about them, and then look to people who are in the community who can say, I have known him for this many years, I have seen his work, and all of those things. So that assures them that the likelihood of the investment being successful goes way up. So it's incumbent on every investor to look carefully at with whom they're doing business.
Buck, like an example for the Truax project, when are the investor funds released?
The investor funds, when they come in our particular case, we used Fragaman. Fragaman is Fragaman, Del Rey, and 2 or 3 other names. It's the world's largest immigration law firm. And that we use them, and that we use the East West Bank as our escrow agency to be able to hold the funds. The investor then decides that they'd like to join our project. They invest those funds into an escrow account controlled by the bank. We then submit all of the information for source of funds, background information, tax returns, all of these things on the individual investor to Fragaman. That's the business they're in, is preparing that documentation on the individual investor, and the key is source of funds, because that's the way the USCIS wants to make sure this person is eligible to participate, is the source of funds. In addition to that, we have all the information from the economic analysis that was put together by our PhD economists that this project will qualify under the auspices of the USCIS. We package those two things up and we submit them to the USCIS. Now, Fragment has in round numbers, 100% approval rate, so they know that that investor is going to be approved. So we then submit that. They're not approved yet. We submit that to the USCIS, that package. Upon acknowledgement that the USCIS has received those funds, we then go to the escrow, notify them, that's all part of the agreement with the investor, and release those funds to Bernie project. And then the clock then starts, because their conditional green card will come out in a fairly short period of time, but what we're wanting is 21 months after that time to get their permanent green card. That's called an 829. We want that clock to start, as does the investor. And so all of those triggers then happen. That's when the funds are released, and then we get the 21 months that we'll be submitting to get the permanent green card. That's the sequence.
Thank you, Buck, and thank you, Maryann, for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It is important for cities to support EB-5 projects in their community that will impact the economy and create jobs. The Truax building, currently under construction in Old Town Temecula, is an EB-5 project that is a mixed-use office building expected to create 570 jobs. It will also be the headquarters for Truax Development, who worked closely with Inland Investor Visa Group 8 to bring this project to fruition. I'm Amy Rios, and I want to thank you for watching this edition of EB-5 Investment Report.